The Astros find themselves in an 0-2 hole in the ALCS to the Rangers. Fromber is unreliable. Tucker's bat is MIA. But the good news, at least they're on the road for the next couple of games. It's episode 46 of Stone Cold Stros, and it starts right now.
The Houston Astros, world champions!
I bobbled that open worse than Fromber handling a ground ball. Welcome into Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange, and I'm joined by Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. Follow them on Twitter, X, @Palillo, @JoshJordan975. Be sure to hit like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. The full version of the podcast is available in audio form right now at your favorite podcast app. Charlie, it's episode 46. What player who wore number 46 are you going to shout out this week?
All right, first, it better be the next 3 games on the road, not couple games. I'm not going with Bill Dawley, but get him in because on the 1983 Astros, a staff that had Nolan Ryan and Joe Niekro, rookie reliever Bill Dawley, who I didn't cover but met subsequently years later, real good guy, an all-star as a rookie, got in a few years in the major leagues. So if he happens to be a consumer of Stone Cold Stros, ready? Hello, Dolly. But the guy I'm going with, I'm going to say this is somewhat advanced level Astros trivia, harkening back to glory days, because who minds doing that, especially at this very moment. Game 7, 2017. Lance McCullers starts, doesn't get out of the third inning, hits 3 batters. 4 other Astros pitchers recorded outs in the Game 7 win over the Dodgers. Brad Peacock got them through 2 innings. Chris Davinsky got 1 out. Charlie Morton the last 4 innings. 1 other pitcher wearing number 46 got 1 out in the middle innings. That was Francisco Liriano, big trade acquisition deadline guy from the Toronto Blue Jays, who came to the Astros and put on uniform number 35. A month later, the Astros made a much bigger pitching acquisition at the second deadline, and Justin Verlander paid, I don't know whether a princely sum, at least a modest sum, to get his number 35. Liriano wore 46 the rest of the way, and the rest, as they say, is World Series history.
Awesome. I was wondering where you were going to go with that because there are a few interesting 46s. I'm going to go with Hal Wodashek, who I got to meet a few years back. Played for the Colt 45s for several years. He was a really cool dude. Shout out to Hal Wodashek. I heard John Granado and Lance Zierlein joking about this before the series. They were just kind of tongue-in-cheek saying, the Astros are starting the series at home. If they can just somehow get a split at home and then go on the road and take care of business, Houston fails to accomplish that in getting a split at home, and now they're looking to keep the series alive in Arlington, Charlie, as you alluded to. At least 2 games, hopefully 3 if they can extend the series. In game 2, Fromber Valdez starts the game throwing what looks like BP. He commits 2 errors, gives up 3 runs before the first recorded out, 5 total runs over 2 2/3 innings. Looks like 2021 Fromber in the ALCS, not 2022 Fromber in the ALCS. If this is who Fromber is going forward, do the Astros have any hopes of getting out of the series, much less repeating?
There is some hope. Look, first off, only fanboys and the non-observant thought that the Astros were just going to be the hot knife cutting through the Rangers in the role of butter because of what happened in the regular season matchup. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. You look at the Rangers lineup, it's at least as good, probably a little better if you go weakest link in the chain type stuff. And you look at the individual pitching matchups in terms of starting pitching, it's not advantage Astros. Right, the bullpen was supposed to be the big edge, and so far the Rangers, with some dicey moments, have held up. But geez, Fromber, I X'd in this vein during the course of the game. I'll spin off of it, I guess, here. Valdez, Fromber Valdez. Youngins may have to go do a little Wikipediaing on this or Googling. That was the most disastrous Valdez performance since Exxon, which was Exxon Valdez, actually, the pronunciation, but the same. Fromber was leaking oil all over the place. You mentioned the 2 errors on 1 play. That's not easily accomplished. He was bonehead guilty at Kansas City game in September. He fields his position very poorly, whatever factor. Some guys just aren't good pitchers. They don't get in a great fielding position. Frankly, being overweight doesn't make you particularly nimble in getting off the mound. But just an absolutely nightmarish inning, and the Astros chipped and chipped and chipped, but could never get all the way back. And it could well be at a point. Look, Framber Valdez, his first 99 innings of this season, which spanned 16 starts, ERA in the low twos, top 3 Cy Young candidate. Rest of the season, the same number of innings pitched, 99 innings pitched, a 4.64 earned run average, and that's not including 2 crapola postseason starts. Now, it's different when you come in behind by several runs and you're just holding down to 4 as opposed to from the start of the game. But JP France, the family emergency, he hadn't pitched in weeks. If you get it to a game 6, it at least has to be a discussion, does it not? Do you send Framber back out there with an ultra short leash or not even do that? Say, you know what, JP France, we'd start you in a game 6 situation. Obviously, in any short series, any combination of outcomes is possible. 2019 World Series, the Astros lose 2 at home and go win 3 in Washington. Of course, they come home and then lose games 6 and 7. But there's a shot. The lineup is capable of coming out of too much of a collective coma through 2 games, Jordan aside. And it starts with Javier, resurgent in recent starts. He needs to be money for them in game 3. The Rangers have no idea what they're going to get out of Max Scherzer, his first start in over a month, no rehab starts. I'm sure they'd be delighted if they could get 3-4 innings with just a run allowed. They have 4 starting pitchers available, basically, to divide up innings pre-bullpen over these next couple of games. So historically, the Astros have about a 15% chance of winning the series. For the circumstances, that's not good, but it's not brutal. It's not a 1,000,000,000 Powerball type shot, but the odds are there will be new American League champions.
Yeah, it starts with Javier. That's on to the next one. Framber has an ERA over 11 this postseason. It's got to get better than that if he gets the ball again, that's for sure. I wonder if they should have been a shorter leash on him in game 2. You know, I know it's so early to be pulling out your starter, but Framber's been kind of showing these signs towards the end of the regular season, into the postseason, and you're already down, 1 game to none. I maybe wanted a little bit more urgency there with him, but it's water.
And you have 3 starters.
Yeah. Yeah.
A good thing they carried both Hunter Brown and Ronel Blanco. I really think in the first inning, in fairness to Dusty, it was single, error, another single. Now, if he'd given up one more telling blow and suddenly it's 7-0, great. Bring in the reliever now that every horse has galloped out of the barn. Pitched around trouble in the second inning, then gives up the leadoff home run in the third after the Astros had gotten a run back on Jordan's first home run. I just think even with Framber having been not even mediocre over the last 3 months, he's still their number 2 guy, and I think most managers are going to be loath to pull their starter that early in the game, even with the off day between games 2 and 3. Framber just failed miserably, and if we want to go real macro on it, is he costing himself tens of millions of dollars? If you're the Astros and you're thinking big fat extension in the offseason, big and extension might not come into the consideration at this point.
No, and I'm thinking when they traded for Justin Verlander, Framber, that occurred to him that, they're going to sign up for all these more years of Verlander's money along with what the Mets are paying him. I wonder if that's going to cost me. But now as I look back at it, I'm glad they did. I was telling Brandon the other day, imagine if they went into this postseason, if they even made it with Framber as your number 1. Sheesh. My Lord, thank God you have Justin Verlander to just give you a speck of hope here. So we'll see what Javier can do. If Urquidy's game 4, he's been good lately. That's what they're going to have to do. And Javier, he's that specialist of back against the wall. He did it in Philly, down in that series. He pitched well on the road in this past series against the Twins, and he's going to have to do it again.
And offensively, it starts at the top. Right, a year ago, Jose Altuve began the postseason Zippo for 25. Well, so far through 6 games of this postseason, he's 4 for 25. That's a 160 batting average, an 0 for 5 performance in game 2. A couple of very bad at bats mixed in there as well. Kyle Tucker struggled for much of September. He's been miserable so far in the postseason. And again, short stretches of games, these things happen. If you go 2 for 22 in June, it's a little bit of a funk. But if it's the entirety of your postseason, which is where Kyle Tucker's checking in, 2 for 22 going into game 3, hey, shake yourself, do something, right? Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, 3 games for the Dodgers combined, 1 for 21, nighty-night. There's a long history of really good players who've had clunker World Series or postseasons. It's just prone to happen. It's just the Astros are running out of time to have a couple of guys get the heck out of it.
Kind of back-to-back years for Altuve, though, right? With how he played in the postseason last year and right now where he's hitting 160. We're starting to see a little bit of a trend there.
Yeah, well, a guy who's not struggling is Yordan Alvarez outside of whatever his sickness was that he was dealing with. I want to get into that just in a second. But before I do, I just want to remind everybody and invite them out to join us at the tailgate October 25th. It is at Silver Street Studios. We're celebrating all things Houston sports with tailgate-inspired food. So signature cocktails and tailgate-style bites. And there are VIP tickets if you want them. You can meet and greet with former Texan Jonathan Joseph. So if you want those tickets, go to tailgate.culturemap.com, use promo code SportsMap, and you'll get $10 off any ticket type. And the food and the drink are included in that price. We'll put a little card up on the screen if you're watching on YouTube, and you can click that and it'll take you right to the ticket page. So we talked about there's no shortage of guys that are struggling right now. Tucker, obviously, 2 hits in the entire postseason. It is a short series. It is a short window. We know Dusty's not going to do anything crazy. He's not going to upset the apple cart. He's going to dance with the guys that brought him. But if you were Dusty, would you do anything to kind of try to shake this up and try to stir the offense a little bit? Would you put maybe Michael Brantley higher in the batting order? Would you try to maybe play Brantley even against left-handed pitching? Would you maybe give Dubon a little bit more of a look since Chaz's situational hitting has kind of escaped him recently? Maybe drop Tucker down. If you guys had carte blanche, would you do anything different if you're the manager for the Astros right now?
Well, I'm going to go back to where we've been largely over the last 6 months. Yainer Diaz should be getting primary catching duty. My God, what a disaster Fromber would have been if he didn't have Maldi shepherding him through that top of the first inning. And
we'd give it up 10.
Forbid, the roof had been open. The roof caved in on him as it was. That home field advantage just continues to manifest itself. Good thing that roof's been closed the first couple games. Okay, pet peeve. I'll let that go. Dusty, with Tucker having swung the bat lousily through the Twin Series and into this one, he moved him up in the lineup in game 2 ahead of Yordan, thinking, well, the Rangers smartly are scared to death of Yordan, so they'll at least come after Tucker aggressively. But Kyle, you can just see it. And it can happen to really good players where you just go cold, but the frustration with the bat flips, I don't mean the excited home run type bat flips, but flinging the bat toward the dugout and spinning it away as he, rolls over and hits a ground ball to second base or hits a lazy fly ball to the outfield. Brantley, banging out 2 hits after striking out the first at bat. I think there's a good case to move him up if you want to try something at least semi-radical. You're going to face a right-handed starter. Bruce Bochy will have the option, though, to go to a lefty fairly early if Scherzer's only going to go 3-4 innings if he wants to go with Andrew Heaney behind him. Brantley's not very good against left-handed pitching. That's just the career truth on that. 2022, he narrowed the gap some, but was still grossly inferior to what he is against right-handed pitching. So how do you measure that against a left-handed pitcher? McCormick's track record is just very good. I would stick with Chaz against a lefty. Dubon does put the bat on the ball. McCormick is doing a lot of swing and miss these days. Is that something you consider in a start against Scherzer or whomever else in games 3 and 4? But other than that, and Yainer over Maldonado, and I will say on Dusty, while Yainer has looked lousy, right? The 1 start in Minnesota with the sombrero, 4 strikeouts, but he's a young guy, but his swing to me feels a little bit like a banana that's gone brown. Right, he was ripe and swinging it, and then you bury him on the bench down the stretch of the regular season. And now, hey, kid, get in there and go do something great. That's not easy. But a couple of his outs made in the last couple of games, he did put good wood on the ball. Seager made a real nice play on him in the hole in game 1. And a ground ball speared by, I believe it was Josh Young made a play on him in the hole in game 2. At least Yainer, there's the better than snowball's chance in hell of him giving you something offensively as opposed to Maldonado. Dusty finally relented, hitting for Maldi as early as the 5th inning in Game 2. How about having him in the lineup from the very start, especially if you're facing the right-handed starter and you want to talk about the platoon stuff?
Yeah, if I was going to shake it up, I felt like Lumberg right there. Yeah. I think the 2 spot you change out. That seems to be a point in the lineup that Dusty juggles around a bit. Sometimes we see Pena. Before the season, we heard that was Michael Brantley's spot, and there's no way he was going to be out of it. Well, we haven't seen him there in a long time. And as much as Bregman's look good, he's hitting 217 in the postseason. I mean, that's not exactly lighten it up. And if you get maybe Brantley on base in front of Jordan a little more often in that 2 spot, if I'm a pitcher, that scares me a little bit, where I'm facing Jordan more often with people on base. As far as Chaz, I know it's looked ugly with the strikeouts, but I mean, he's hitting 316 in the postseason. It's only him, Dubon, Jordan, and one other guy. Who is it? One more. Oh, Brantley. Those 4 are the only ones hitting over 300 this postseason out of everybody. So maybe I move it around a little bit. I don't have a problem if you want to try Dubon. He looked pretty good in Game 1. So if they want to put him in there, that's fine. He plays a good center field, but I don't know how much else you can do. I mean, maybe the magic formula, Pena back to hitting second, but he's hitting 227 and hadn't hit a home run since July 5th. So I think Brantley, that's maybe the one tweak I would make there.
It's a simplification to say, so goes Altuve, so go the Astros. But when your leadoff hitter is giving you very little, right? If you want to have a big offensive game, I mean, who wouldn't think that Altuve is not in the middle of it somewhere? He's the guy who occasionally has dropped a bunt when he feels like he's not swinging it particularly well. Would Scherzer be ready to bounce off the mound at the start of the game? Because obviously you're not going to contemplate moving Altuve or anything like that down from the leadoff spot. But it just in one game and in a series of games, it gets to where you do or you don't, you will or you won't. And so they're going to have to produce better than obviously 0 in Game 1 and the cat chasing its tail in Game 2 that they got to 4 runs, which isn't a good offensive game, though it's at least not being in a deep freeze. The last 3 games they played in Arlington, they scored 39 runs. I bet the under in this case, but it's not as if they're going there with just a pop gun lineup that you're taking a shot in the dark and hoping to get lucky. The problem is the Rangers are capable of more offensively than they've done, right? They won 2-0, and after the 4 runs against Fromber in the first inning, they only added 1 more to that. The Rangers have been a much better home team this year, just as the Astros have been a much better road team. So something's got to give.
That's going to be it for part 1 of Stone Cold Stros. To listen to the full podcast, it's available right now on your favorite podcast provider. And to watch the full conversation, make sure to check out the Stone Cold Stros playlist on YouTube. We'll be releasing those videos very shortly. And as always, go Stros.